Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on cagematch.net. I am your host, STRIGGA, and I am, as always, joined by my good friend, by my main man, Dylan. How are you doing, Dylan?
STRIGGA, I am feeling fantastic right now, and that's with a lot on my plate. Have you seen the Cubs play lately? I mean, this team has ruined my life.
Ever in the Cubs play, so no, I've not.
I understand baseball's not that popular in Germany, but if you're a baseball fan, you know what I'm talking about. All of these ups, all of these downs. It's like things coming up. World Cup's coming up, String. So,
yes.
Let me ask you about World Cup right now. What's your prediction for Germany in this great World Cup?
Oh, given
that's not good.
Given that they changed the format and the groups are on paper so easy, Germany, for the first time since 2014, should move past the group stages, actually.
Okay.
What happens then? I really don't know, because this team doesn't excite me. The coach doesn't excite me. The coach actually has a real rough time. He had a disastrous TV outing a couple of weeks ago where he actually failed to explain some of his decisions. He reinstated Manuel Neuer, who was the goalkeeper for the past 12 years or so, and he didn't communicate that decision very well. So the media are not really high on him. Most fans are not really high on him, and I don't sense there is a very positive atmosphere going into this World Cup. So I would say past the group stages has to be the goal, at least to the quarterfinals or semifinals. But I don't know if that's happening actually. I've only watched the goals, the last game that Germany played against the US. I've only read the game wasn't really good. So yeah, that's where we are actually.
Well, I will say this. Whatever negative opinions you have on the Germany team can only be multiplied tenfold for the home team this World Cup, which happens to be Team USA, who very well may not have qualified if they did not get this bonus spot. Nor should they have, probably. But I will say, all the talk is like this team for the US, they do have Pulisic, who a lot of people like. Like he's one of the few good players in the history of this wonderful Team USA, and I feel bad. Rest in peace, Grandpa Ken. This is actually the anniversary of him passing away. So shout out to Ken.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. He was a huge football fan. Always loved Team USA, and never was there any man, or will there ever be another one, who had more faith in Team USA that they could bring home the cup than that individual, to the point of throwing his remote in frustration after they evidently lost last time. But nevertheless, they will come in, and I'm somebody, Strigga, I've considered myself a World Cup free agent, pretty much. I'm not somebody who's like hyper loyal to the US or anything like that. I always expect the USA to lose, and I don't want to be associated with that right now. And I never have. I've always rooted for other teams in World Cup.
And I think this is the World Cup where you could actually go and root for some of the smaller nations, because there are some of them. Germany plays Curacao, for example.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cape Verde is qualified, for example, as well. So yeah, there are some of those smaller nations that could actually that are really happy that they are in this World Cup. For some of them, it's the first World Cup, and that's a great thing for them and for the team and for the fans, obviously. To Team USA, by the way, here there is a player that is really good, except for Pulisic. It's Weston McKennie.
Okay.
He's a former Schalke player, so I'm
Oh,
obviously
nice.
rooting
Okay.
for him. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So USA, we got a little bit of a bud going. I won't root against Team USA, but I don't want to root for them because I know that there's no prayer.
Actually,
Although,
actually not seen who they are playing. I have no idea actually. Oh, they okay. Oh, that group is tough. That group is tough.
yeah. Well, I'm revealing due to an advertisement. I've been saving this Stringer because World Cup fever has hit America, and people do care about it somewhat. I mean, back 20 years ago, the World Cup had no buzz, pretty much. But nowadays that I'm an adult, I can see how it's grown, and I am a proud owner of a a plastic toy bobblehead that I received from Jack in the Box recently. I received their World Cup meal, and with each World Cup, you are guaranteed one of 9 bobbleheads that represent a World Cup country. And I don't even know if you have Jack in the Box, if our
Nope.
listeners have Jack in the Box, but it's very good. I like their burgers more than most, but I, of course, got the spicy chicken sandwich. And now on air, I will reveal my pick.
Ooh.
Thanks to Jack in the Box, my team, after some great years, I've loved rooting for Costa Rica in the past, Pura Vida, for sure. And I've rooted for Argentina when I was younger because I liked their jersey colors and flag colors. And they were one of the best. So they were always around. I have love for many places, but for this year's World Cup, I will be representing. Oh, viva Mexico! Te amo, Mexico. Siempre estuviste en mi corazón. Now, come on, now, let's go, Mexico. All right, what's our group? Do we have a hard group too?
Let's see. Mexico, South Africa. It's the opening game, actually.
A number
South
one, numero
South
uno.
Korea and the Czech Republic. That sounds like a group that Mexico should.
Yeah, that group kind of sucks, actually.
Good in. Let's see. Just going through the groups right here as we're talking. My second team actually is Bosnia.
Okay, I've got love for Bosnia.
Yeah, then the Schalke coach actually is from Bosnia originally. He fled when the war came to Bosnia, fled to Switzerland, and there are a couple of more Bosnia players on the Schalke team. So that's my second team actually that I'm rooting for.
Okay, I respect that.
They could actually make a move. Actually, I think. Who else is there? Ivory Coast is playing Germany. Ivory Coast is a really good team. They just recently I think they beat France. Yeah, that's a great win for them. Yep. So they are always really good. I think Morocco has a great team too. So there are some of those could be dark horses, but we'll see how some of the smaller nations will fare. So that's going to be definitely the story of this World Cup, I think.
All right, that sounds good. I'm into that. Like I said, I've dedicated myself to watch it for Kid's sake, as I know he would be watching every USA game. So I will root for. The thing is, I root for every team practically because if Germany somehow won the World Cup, I can easily go to you and a few of my other friends that root for Germany. That'll be awesome. If England wins, I know people from there. And all of that. So there's a lot of teams with places I know, Japan. I could go root for like 20 different teams of this World Cup. It would be really hard for me to find a team I actively don't want to win. So I'm hoping for the best for everybody. We have a great World Cup that electrifies the fans all over the world. And I'm very excited about it, and I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Here in Europe, obviously, it's a bit difficult for some nations, at least. The German games are actually in really good time slots for the German viewers. For example, the opening game against Curacao is 7 p.m. on a Sunday. Then I think the other games are at 10 p.m. So that's really good. I talked to a colleague who told me that the games that Turkey has are 6 in the morning on Mondays, which is not a good time to watch football, actually. Yeah, some of them are not really timed well, but that's the game. The World Cup moves around the world, and so that's what we have to deal with. And Dylan, we also have to deal with some of the decisions that are made in the world of professional wrestling. And I feel like we talked about that off the air as well. I feel like this show is going to be somewhat of a therapy session for the both of us, because we're desperately searching for that spark in Japanese pro wrestling that really makes us invested more and more again. But when I'm looking up and down these promotions that we usually talk about, in the last couple of months, I really, really struggle to find something that I can really hook myself to, that I can really get behind. And while I enjoyed some of the parts of this Best of the Super Junior that New Japan has put out, I've really not enjoyed the final. And the reason that I've enjoyed it in the parts that I've watched is that I didn't watch all the shows. Because when I'm looking at Cage Match and when I'm looking at the ratings of the individual shows, this was a very middling tournament, to put it mildly. But I picked some of the matches that I thought could be good, and some of them really delivered. For example, just from the top of my head, the Kosei Fujita and Master Wato match in the group stage, really good stuff. The semifinals, we talked about that off the air. The storyline of the semifinals was really set up well. But there were some of the matches that you were really looking at and scratching your head and thinking, why are these people in this tournament and what is happening right here? And and then we had this final between Yo and Kosei Fujita, which we are going to talk about. So I had this approach to the tournament, watching some individual matches and not all of these shows, but obviously, Dylan, you had another approach to this tournament, and you came away with a slightly different opinion, I think.
Yes, I reviewed all the block play shows on Patreon. For some reason, I decided to do this because I saw the list of names. We went over the tournament before.
Yeah. We talked about the first couple of shows last time we were here, and we weren't really hyped. So that's not a good sign because usually Japanese tournaments start out really hot. Then there is a section of shows that are really dropping off, and to the end of the tournament, it sparks again. But we were really hyped to begin with.
And just look at the blocks. I mean,
yeah.
B block, even with your sparse viewing schedule, like, who besides Eagles, who stood out in a positive way in that whole block? Like 9 other men.
Ishimori had some good matches.
Yep. He was one of the better ones. I will admit that.
Kushida had a couple of them.
No, he had a couple of good ones at the end, but that foot thing he was doing, that was like dirt worst. Like, that was absolute garbage. But yeah, I hated his tournament.
I didn't watch.
Yeah, you didn't watch any of the other ones.
I didn't watch Sasaki's matches for the most part, even though he wasn't the worst one in his block. I watched some of the Hio matches, and I watched none of the Jacob Young matches. So B block, I mostly skipped.
See, and the thing is, I was attacking all of that, and they did make a point to at least, for the most part of the tournament, we moved. It's funny because they started off. Remember our conversation last time that a lot of the earlier shows, you had these shockingly short matches up and down.
Yeah,
3 minutes, type of deal. And throughout most of the tournament, they didn't, they went away from that to their detriment because these people shouldn't be having long matches. But they kind of went back to that by the end. Once we got before the semifinals, you look at those shows, like the one on the third, you had 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, another 5 minutes. So it's like you've got a lot of these short matches that take up half the show, and that helps them move along to the point where it's like I didn't hate the first few shows because they were kind of easy to watch, even if the wrestling wasn't great. They got in and got out. But as this tournament went along, and the problem is, and I said it to you off the air, you were totally right about Kasai and his matches getting repetitive. But the thing is, most of these performers are ultimately just trope guys. Like, they're not, Kushida, perfect example. He went with this foot thing throughout the tournament. Yo is a total gimmick wrestler until he switched it up for the finals, and I'll talk about that in a second. Sasaki, gimmick. Hyo, gimmick with the stuffed toy. Kanemaru, gimmick. Sho, gimmick. Like, all of these guys are just tropes repeated over and over and over. So it's really hard. And it's one thing if you're just a match that, like, even a high level worker, like an Okada, like in these past tournaments, has had repetitive matches, but they were at least matches. He was at least wrestling, and we could get into that. Even though I was never that big of a fan of his tournaments, especially, but even still, something like that is better than these guys who are all really one note type of characters on there. I will say this, that I really enjoyed Akira. I think he did a really good job in this tournament with this heel gimmick.
And I was really sad that he didn't make it to the semifinals.
I thought he would. I really did.
Yeah, me too. I was expecting him over Master Wato, actually, to make that to the finals, because I don't know how much time they have left with him to actually make him a player in this junior division.
Well, Yo has taught us that you have infinite time in this junior division.
I mean, Yo, yes, of course, but I've said it before on the show that I think that the last time when Akira was on AEW, that was him going for a new job.
Yeah, it did feel like that. I definitely agreed with that, and still do. But I do like him a lot. I thought he did a good job in the tournament. Obviously, Kosei was in a lot of main events. A point I kept making on the Patreon reviews was that I think you could make a case that Titan is one of the most underrated workers to me, because I've said this before about other people in tournaments, like somebody like an Iwatani when she was in Stardom or in Marigold. I think with Titan, he's a victim of his own greatness, in that he's been great so long, we just expect him to be great. So when he's out having all of these great matches, it's like, oh, okay, it's Titan doing his thing again, rather than somebody who's on the come up, like a Robbie X, who got really over in this tournament.
Yeah.
The fans are really in love with this guy, and that really helped him,
Yeah.
But with Titan, he's wrestling fantastic. Like, to me, he might have been the best pure wrestler in the tournament, but he doesn't have any juice to him. Like, they're not doing anything with him, first of all. That's another issue. But secondly, I think even the fans that are more focused on in-ring purely, they're not noticing him or giving him his props, because it's like he's been doing it for so long that it's not even that interesting anymore, even if it's great. And that's a shame. But like you said, I ended up liking the semifinals, even though I don't like them at the same time. It's very weird. I like the idea of both partners fighting, like, to determine the final. Like, I thought, okay, that's a cool little story, like you've got going on here. And like you said, what happened was probably my least anticipated version of the final.
Yeah, I said it off the air. I looked at the semifinal matches, and I thought, yes, Master Wato against Fujita or Eagles would be really cool. But they decided to make Fujita and Yo the final again, and that's the match that I would not have made. That's the match that they did, that we were given. And to their credit, this match sold out Ottawa. And this match, in the end, in the finishing moments, and also throughout the match, got great reactions from the crowd, from the live crowd in Ottawa. So it was probably for them the best match to put on in the main event for Ottawa for the tournament final. But for me, for my personal liking, and that is where I stand right now with my enjoyment of New Japan Pro Wrestling. For my personal liking, this match wasn't good. I texted you when I watched it. I came away really frustrated with it because of all the moves that were copied from various wrestlers of the chaos past that Yo had. Obviously, that was part of the storyline, and I get that, but the way that this final was laid out, I really couldn't attach to it. And I'm looking at the fans in the attendance that are really entertained by that, and I feel a disconnect, and I feel as strong of a disconnect to New Japan Pro Wrestling as never before. And I'm really wondering where that's going to leave me past Dominion, a card that we will also talk about in a bit here. Because Dylan, in the last couple of weeks, I also looked at some of the Noah cards, and I just decided to just not watch them. So
Par for the course, I think.
Conscious decision to just drop Pro Wrestling Noah from my regular schedule of watching wrestling. And I'm really wondering if this company is still the company that I want to follow. And I have stopped following every single show of New Japan Pro Wrestling because it's just not what I enjoy for the most part. But I always dropped in to watch the key matches and the key developments. But now I'm wondering if this is the promotion and this is the material, the matches that I want to watch. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know who can blame you when you look at these cards. I think this final, I do have to admit that it was over with the fans, but that doesn't change. Like, there's some facts about this match that hurt it a lot for me. And the main point being that, like, everything you said about Yo copying everybody's moves, they did that last year. Like, they did this exact same type of match last year. And last year, I thought it was a fantastic match. Like, that had so much heart to it. And it was coming, it was 1 month after Chaos had disbanded, or maybe 2 months, but right around the time after Chaos had been merged into Honda. Yes, exactly. And that had real heart. It had real stakes. The fans loved it, and they gave him an incredible reaction. Here, the reaction was good, but with none of the heart and soul that last year's match had. It was just doing the same thing you did because it worked last time. And it did work again. Like, I'm not saying it didn't, but when you really look at, compare this match this year to their match last year. This is a rematch of last year's finals now. And I thought last year's match was a phenomenal match. Like, one of the better Super Junior finals, and there's been a lot of good ones. We do have to admit that about the finals. And now this year just came across like a really shoddy type of copy from last year, and not as good in any way. And I think last year I said it. I said they should have changed that decision on the fly if they had to. With the reaction that Yo got, they should have had Yo win last year. And especially since Kosei wasn't going to win, you could have had Yo win, screw him over like you always do in the title match. Now this year you have Yo win when he's not, like, this match wasn't on the level of last year's. You've got a champion that is so unexciting. Like, he wasn't even in this tournament. And now you have to expect that to carry a semi-main event match. So to me, everything they did was ass backwards. If Yo had won last year and Kosei had won this year, and he was going to win, I think that would be a much better path in terms of narrative, but also just last year would have been a good narrative if Yo had won, but I don't want him to win because I don't think he's very good. Just to be direct about it, I don't think he's a very good worker at his core. He's a total gimmick guy to make up for that, and that has worked, and that's fine. That's what you should do.
The narrative would have been much better because
exactly
they decided to not give Kosei Fujita the singles push that everybody was expecting and that he should have gotten given the way that the people reacted to him. But they once again did not do the right thing here. And we've been over that multiple times with the junior division, that they just failed trigger on guys. And that's also problem in the heavyweight division, but we've been talking about that recently with Hiromu Takahashi's departure. They should have done that after Kosei Fujita won the tournament. And like you said, if the decision was that Fujita, or that the winner is not winning the title, then it could have been Yo anyways. But now I think that Yo, in the end, is the one that is going to take the title from Doki because of the way that he was reacted to by the crowd.
And like last year, Despy wasn't like a super hot champion, but at least he was Despy. He has a decade plus history as being a star somewhat in the junior division. Doki does not have the history that Despy has. Never mind that he's also not a hot champion at all. Nowhere even close to that. And that's another thing that really hurt is that they brought Doki back.
He's such a hot champion that he's not even on any cards. That is the hot champion that he is.
Yeah, exactly. He's not any kind of hot champion at all. So this match doesn't do a lot for me. Maybe if people can rally behind Yo, that could be something. But we know that there's a ceiling to these matches as long as they're doing the House of Torture stuff. That's all three of these people we're talking about: Kosei, Yo, and Doki. They failed. Remember Doki's first title reign? When he had the belt before his injury that unfortunately ended at the Dome? That was a great reign. The fans organically invested in him. He was one of their only organically over baby faces. And now he's a guy that nobody cares about. Yo, he's a guy that they caught lightning in a bottle last year, and they dropped the ball. And they messed up the narrative and they're trying to make up for that this year. Kosei didn't even win the title, like you said. And he's a guy that you want to believe is at least the new ace of this division. But they don't want that to happen, it feels like, for whatever reason. And on top of it, and this is another thing we talked about off the air, with this tournament, you avoided having Desperado and Kasai in the semifinals or to do anything with them. What was the point of this? Where are you going? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, Strigga.
It was very obvious to me that this was the direction that they were heading to. But obviously they did it because they figured that everybody would think that that's the match that we're heading to. And in the end, it was not. So it was a swerve, maybe?
I guess. This was something unexpected. I'll give him that. Yeah. And it's good to not be obvious. I get that. I just think this one, and there was and I will give them this. There was narrative threads to the semifinals and the final. So I will praise them on that sort. I just don't think when you combine, if this match had been the first time they had wrestled, I probably would think much higher of it, but I can't erase what happened in reality. Last year happened. I can't pretend it didn't. So when they do the same thing a year later, it's not going to hit as much for me. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of these fans reacted so strong. There was a lot of people there, I'm sure, that maybe weren't paying attention that closely last year. And they got to see this, or at the very least, they weren't there live last year. So now you're getting this whole new experience that turned into this great thing. So, again, I respect them for being over. I respect them for the draw. Maybe it'll feel like a big match by the time we get there. But what you just said proves that it probably won't be, considering Doki's not even on the shows.
Yeah. So we had the final we just talked about, and then we had the semifinals before that on the 5th with Fujita over Eagles and Yo over Wato. And even those matches, I mean,
Yeah.
they were the Fujita and Eagles match was really good. Really enjoyed that. The Yo and Master Wato match, not so much. And it also has a lower rating of 5.68. I had real issues to find any threat in this match to follow along with, because it felt to me that they were just doing moves.
And that's basically what happened. And I think they had the opportunity to do a lot more with it. Wato had that great final match a few years ago when
Yeah. With
and
Titan.
and that's another guy that he wins the tournament and he has all this momentum. The fans are in love with him, and then it's just like, nope, we're pulling this rug out from under you, brother, on here. And he's a guy that's never. And I'll be honest, like people are gonna like. I think people still hold his return against him with the look and the blue and all that crap, but he's a good worker. Like honestly, like I've watched him this whole tournament. Like he's not a bad worker at all, and he carries himself a lot better than he used to. But he has no booking buzz to him at all, or any reason to care about him or his character. And they didn't do any kind of effective job at building to this, unfortunately. It's a match that you would want to have emotional stakes. Like these guys are partners and stuff. You would want it to feel like a big deal, and instead it just felt like, that was all right. I didn't think it was a bad deal, but I didn't think it was worth a main event or anything like that. None of the semifinals. The other match was good, but even that is another one where if you say I'm putting Fujita and Eagles in a singles match, I'm expecting a great match, and I don't think it really was. I thought it was
really
good.
was not. No.
Yeah, and I have higher expectations for those two.
And I was surprised by the positioning of the two matches, because I actually would have put Fujita and Eagles in the main event.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I probably would have to.
The way that they did, but I mean, like we said, Yo is over.
And I think the problem is me and you, and I think a lot of our listeners are probably agreeing with us. But I think that we look at Fujita differently than they do.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think that's the uncomfortable and inconvenient truth about him is that we look at him different than they do, unfortunately.
Yeah. What I like though about this tournament, you talked about Robbie X before here, and we've said our piece on Block B. I really liked that they had enough time and they had enough guys in the tournament that they were able to give some guys their individual run. They did it with Robbie X. He got his closing promo. Robbie Eagles in Block B also got his closing promo. Some of the guys like Akira, who made it was close to the semifinals, he also got his run and his shine in the matches. Titan got his early run. So there was a spotlight on some of these guys that could actually shine in this tournament, and who rarely have the opportunity when the heavyweights are around, that they get these kind of matches in the main event position. And even Daiki Nagai had his storyline going on, with him losing every single match but coming close in the end with Fujita. So that was really good. But that's mostly Block A we are talking about once again, Dylan.
And even then, you had Taguchi in a lot of matches. Kasai's shtick got old after match 3. Valiente Jr. I thought was really disappointing. When he got announced, I was expecting big things from him. And he had that injury early on, and I think he never really recovered it, because I've seen this guy be a great worker in CMLL, but for whatever reason, he didn't take in any way in this tournament. But once you get to the top end with your Titan, Akira, Fujita, you're getting into some really good workers. Nick Wayne got some great experience in the tournament. He did his thing. Like, had some good matches. I didn't love his tournament or anything, but I thought he did good. He did good
about him.
Yeah,
he's still very young.
Yeah.
The thing though is, and he does Well, he does have good matches. But is there anything that you could really point to that you would say is inherently a Nick Wayne spot, Dylan? Is there anything that you could say?
When he kissed Jun Kasai in the
Maybe,
mouth.
maybe.
So that's something.
Oh,
But no,
but that,
I totally get where you're going with this,
you know,
honestly, and I agree.
and like I said, he's young and he's still probably finding himself and finding his role in pro wrestling. But right now, I don't really see anything that makes him stand out necessarily.
And I think the hope is he'll probably grow into that if you're at AEW, you know, like Booker
That's
or
the hope.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they know where he's at, though. If you look at his positioning,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
like there's just nothing about him that will stand out among a lot of others. But he is young, and again, he's okay. Like, both him and Robbie X were foreigners, and sometimes that can be shaky a lot of the times. But they did pretty good, and Robbie X got really over with the fans. I do have to admit that. He had some really strong performances. I have to give him credit.
I think the guy has a terrible look.
That's true.
But he's working hard. He's been working really hard since he's been coming to New Japan Pro Wrestling. At first, I think the fans were really hesitant to this dude because nobody obviously knew him. But throughout this tag team that he had, the tag team run that he had, and now in this tournament, I think he has developed a great following in the fan base, and he has, I guess, secured a spot for the coming future.
Yeah, and he earned it. I think that he did a good enough job. Again, it's not like he was blowing me away left and right, but I liked what I saw of him. I think he's definitely improved from the start, not just in the fan support, but also him. I think working in the team helped him a lot, and he's gotten to learn from like a lot of great minds. So sure. I think that he's a guy that they've really done a smart thing investing in him at this level. And, like I said, Nick Wayne's an AEW, guys, but they kind of show us what they kind of think of him, where he's at. And he's the type of guy, here's what I would put, like if I were ranking where somebody like a Nick Wayne is in my mind, he's a good third member of a trio to me.
That's a good explanation of him, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think he should be leading a unit or any of that stuff. But if he's the third guy that brings energy, is going to try hard and has some athletic spots, that's a good role for him. If I were booking a company and he was in it, he's not a guy that I see on the list and I say, we have to get rid of this guy. I say, let us find a role low and test if he could grow beyond that. And like you said, maybe put his own stamp on his wrestling rather than just being what he is now, which I agree with you. Like, he is very derivative of the American indie trope at the moment.
Yeah.
But he does it pretty well, and he is good. He has good athletics, and he does try. So I can appreciate that much. But I do agree overall. A block, like I said, it was way better than B for sure. Like, B was one of the worst blocks of any tournament that I can remember. No joke. A, I think, was at least okay. You had people that had the fans excited. You had interesting characters. You had a storyline. For me personally, just wanted to see Fujita acclaim his spot at the top of the division. So you had some good, decent stuff with A that wasn't there in B. I will give you credit and give them credit for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were some of the matches that you liked the most?
In terms of the tournament, now there were some decent matches in the tournament. Again, I do have to admit that fact. For me, like one of the ones that stood out to me was all the way on night one with Akira and Fujita.
Yep.
Like, that was a really great match to me. Again, those are two guys that I think stood out. I think the Fujita and Wato match was a really great match they have. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just going by memory right now, so I don't know what night it was.
Great. That was great.
Yeah. Fujita and Titan, that was a match I thought was fantastic. There. And Fujita and Nagai, you mentioned that match. That was a great match too. I thought that was the best. And basically, Nagai,
watch any Fujita match basically.
Yeah, and Nagai got kind of robbed in the tournament. I think, like with a lot of
Yeah.
early on stuff, they really put him in a lot of those 3-minute type of matches. Once they let him spread his wings a little bit, he really showed how much of a great talent he is. I also liked Akira and Teton as well. That was a great match. And Robbie X and Teton. So like Teton and Fujita really heavily influenced
Robbie
this
X and
tournament.
Teton was outstanding. Yeah.
Yeah. So see all of those matches, Teton, Fujita, if you just watch their matches, I think you come away thinking, hey, this is really good overall. And some other guys stepped up intermittently, but those are the ones that stand out in my mind. I just pulled up the cage match here and I'm looking at some of the matches. So here, let me see if I can find anything else that's highly rated, at least that I vibed with. See, like Kasai and Fujita, I thought that was okay. Like I didn't think that was that great personally. That's highly rated on here. Yeah, and I think people were just excited because that was earlier on in the tournament with Kasai. You could see his ratings getting lower as the tournament goes along. So it's not like it was just me. Let's see, Despy and Kushida. I thought that was like the one match where they brought what you would expect from those two. Like, because I'm seeing that has a high rating, and I don't think it was a great match, but I did think they worked well together that you would expect, but I'm certain they've had better iterations of this in the past, if I dug through their history. But still, it was nice to see Kushida actually just wrestle for once instead of, like I said, I hated that gimmick stuff that he was doing earlier in the tournament. That really, like, soured me big on that whole, like, on his whole tournament, even when he had some good matches later on. But
I want to give Ryosuke Taguchi one.
Okay.
I want to give some credit to Ryosuke Taguchi because the comedy spot he did in the Jun Kasai match with that tiny ladder and the swimming cap, that was fantastic. That was outstanding stuff.
Another excellent Taguchi moment here wasn't with Taguchi, but it was with Robbie X when he came out with the wig. I laughed out loud at that. Like, and I really, really thought that was awesome. And it's so stupid. I will say this: Hyo didn't win me big points in this tournament by any means, but they actually messed this up one night later. But the spot where Sho and Hyo had their match and Sho stole Myeon and ran away, that was pretty funny. And it's unfortunate that they went back on it the next night to where he just ran out and got him back, because I thought that was actually one of the more fun spots of the tournament like that. So I'll give the goofy guys a little credit, because usually I'm not a big fan of that kind of comedy, but I said it on the Patreon. If there's one thing you can count on with me in comedy wrestling, mascots is always at the top of that list.
Dylan,
Myeon,
very over right now. So
yes.
He has his own Twitter account now.
I gotta follow that, man. Yes. I'm a fan.
_Hyo.
I don't know who's running that. Like I said, it's a total mystery. Yes, but yes, I like number 2 in my comedy rankings is definitely stuffed animal comedy. I will always, just much like the Shoko and Misao ladder match with the stuffed tiger, which was an all-time classic on there, and this was right up there with it.
We talked about Jun Kasai, we talked about Hyo, we talked about Nick Wayne as the outsiders. We also talked about Titan and Daisuke Sasaki. The one that is left here coming in from the outside is Valiente Jr. And I don't think there is any discussion, but he didn't have a good tournament.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, that he really disappointed me. And I've seen him have great matches in CMLL, but he did have that injury early on against Taguchi, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe he just never was able to shake that. Because even in the main event they gave him, this is another thing about this tournament. His main event versus Kosei was like 10 minutes. Like
11 minutes, 1 second, yeah.
Yeah, what was that? Like for a main event?
That was pretty disappointing, to be honest. But yeah, he got this injury, had this injury, I guess. Pretty disappointing too that he really wasn't able to. He has a very complicated finishing move that doesn't look good most of the times, and that is not a good way for a finisher. If you mess it up once, twice. That can happen, but this finish is so complicated that he wasn't able to hit it so that it looked really having a big impact.
Yeah, I agree with that, honestly. And I think for whatever reason, he just was totally out of place. And if you're looking at a luchador comparison, Teton to him is like Teton just proved how many levels above him he is. And again, this is somebody I thought was a great worker in CMLL. I thought he was an excellent choice, and I was really hoping he'd like steal the show. And I've got I've loved CMLL for 20 years now, pretty much since I was a kid, like watching this. So I always root for the luchadors to do good, but just here it just didn't fly. Again, I hopefully I'll blame the injury. If I was him, I'd be working that injury hard. Like I'd be like that. I would have done so much better if I didn't have this injury. Like that's what I would be saying if I was him. But we'll see how it goes. I don't expect him to be in the next year's tournament. To be honest, though, based on this.
And when you look at the semifinal show, how they used some of the outsiders. I mean, they had this 3-minute match with Jun Kasai and Nick Wayne over Gedo and Titan, and a 6-minute match with Despi and Hio over Daisuke Sasaki and Dick Togo.
Oh, God.
I don't know, man.
That's another point.
I mean, Hio will probably be back because he was over. Another one, that's Dragon Gate, like you said before.
Yeah, I was going to say,
they shouldn't have sent him.
yeah, I was going to say another person will jump. But that's kind of an underrated story about this company. I think it's something we've kind of skirted around over these past few years. But when we get to this Dominion card, when you look at this card and when you look at this tournament, and I'm sure the G1 won't be that much different, this is not a good roster of talent. And when you bring in bad outsiders too, like Sasaki, like on here, when you make that decision to bring gimmick guys over 1 through 5, pretty much, and then even the guys you didn't, like Valiente, weren't able to deliver, when you're not getting that boost from the outsiders, this is a rough roster. Like this honestly may be, in terms of pure in-ring talent, the worst roster of any company right now in Japan, at least of a major company. I think when you look at like percentage-wise, I think this might be the worst out of all of them. Even Dragon Gate with the people leaving, I still think it was a better roster in terms of wrestlers than this one.
In terms of in-ring, definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, the star power is also not there right now. I mean, you got Callum Newman as the champion. So, like, they don't have anything going for them when you look at this company right now. I mean, again, when we move the Dominion, I think that'll bear itself out.
And on top of it, it's the TV special that they announced at Wrestle Kingdom, that Dominion will be on cable television once again. Yeah, the card. We have 9 matches, Dylan.
Yes.
It starts off with a TV title match of Takeshita defending against Zanada. And I have a hard time finding out why this is the first match of the show, but then I'm looking at the others, and I think it's interchangeable with some of the other matches on this card.
I also think the TV title, I don't know if this is an exact rule, but I remember that going first a lot when Phantasma was a champion, and I think they put these matches up for free. So that may just be a part of it.
Oh, yeah.
But on the other hand,
makes sense.
But on the other hand, this wasn't the opener on the show with Umino on Sakura Genesis. So what's the deal? Here.
And the question, what's the deal? Is
this next match is definitely
no DQ match. This was booked coming out of the 6-man tag of the final show of the Best of the Super Junior. It's Jake Lee versus El Phantasmo in a no DQ match. Out of nowhere.
Well, see, and that tells you right there, the booking does deserve blame. It really does, like, for where we're at with this company. But this roster is also not good. Like, both of these things can be true. Because if he had done this with 2 guys who were, going back in time with 2 guys who were great, they did, like, let's say, just for argument's sake, Goto and Shibata had this exact build in 2015. We'd all be hyped for that match. Like, regardless of that, they didn't try very hard with the booking. That would at least be cool. And now with this, no matter what storyline you do or how great you protect these guys or make them look, there's no combination of Phantasmo and Jake Lee that is going to be an exciting match. So, like, both of these things can also be true at the same time. And we got the worst of both worlds here. Not only did they not try, you also have a bad match now, so...
Yeah. So
it's not over yet.
No, it's the next one. It looks actually great on paper. It's Yuya Uemura and Taiji against Zack Sabre Jr. and Rohio Oiwa. They made sure to tell the story in the last two shows of the Best of the Super Junior that Uemura and Oiwa are generational rivals, and they will grow wrestling each other. Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi are there to accompany them as the veterans. And so I'm really looking forward to this match.
And also have history as dangerous techers that they'll probably lean on here too.
Yeah.
Here's my problem with this. What happened to Umino and Uemura? As a team?
Well,
you have to break them up for a three-way match? Like not even a singles title match? Which that's also not the story you were telling with Umino and Takeshita. You broke away from that randomly too.
I know. There are flaws, I know.
At least this is a good match, though. Like, Taichi and Uemura have history from just 4 guys or 5 guys or whatever. So, you could have a good match here at least. So I'll give them that from a match perspective. But from a booking perspective, I definitely think this was not a good match built up.
Yeah. Then they did a switch around with the junior tag team title as well in the last couple of weeks, actually. So Fujita and Eagles had the title until March. Then Robbie X and Ishimori had it for 50 days until late April. Then it was tossed back to Fujita and Eagles for a 9-day reign with 0 defenses. Oh, actually, no, 0 defenses. Yes, that's right. And they dropped it to Desperado and Mystico, who, of course, because of the Super Junior tournament, haven't defended the title yet, but they are also not defending it on this show because it's a singles match between the 2 champions that apparently backstage at the last show when they won the title, Desperado called for. So that's the big storyline there.
Match could
Mystico on this card as a singles is a great deal, actually.
It is. I have a lot of respect for Mystico, obviously, and he's a huge star in Mexico. I mean, that entrance he had with Natalia Jimenez singing his song was incredible. Like, that was an unbelievable entrance that he had. It showed you the level of, like icon he really is in his home country. And he also represented my team in World Cup in the hype video for Team Mexico as well. Mystico was in that, which is a huge deal, obviously. I don't know what this match is going to be. 4th from the bottom. And I got to tell you, like, I'm not saying he's bad, but I have no interest in Desperado right now through that entire tournament.
I have not anymore. I agree with you. I was historically always really, really high on El Desperado.
Yeah, and a lot of people were.
With it. Yeah, I'm through with it, actually.
Yeah, that's just how I feel. And he's a fine worker. It's nothing personal against him at all. It's just with how things have gone in this division and how they've used him over the years, he's like a 0 on my interest level. Like, he's not a negative or a positive. He's dead 0. But at least this match with Mystico could be something. But even then, it's also bad booking because they should have defended the tag belts on here.
And, it's the 4th match on the card.
Yeah.
And I'm not... yes, Mystico is great, but I'm not sure if Mystico, seeing that he is 4th on the card, is actually going to pull out a great match. I'm not sure about that.
I agree with you. And, like, that's Mystico. Like, that's his MO. He's a big match worker, but he's not a guy that is, like, having, 5-star matches every single night. Like, he's a guy that comes through when it counts. But this is a match that, no matter what, let's be honest, no matter what happens in this match, there's really no storyline movement with this going forward. Yeah, no matter who wins. Like, it doesn't even matter. So, I think I would have gone with
draw.
That works. Like, like that would work if they wanted to do that. Maybe set up some kind of rivalry between him that they think could pay off at. Maybe they could do that could be a mask versus mask match in Mexico. Maybe like if long term, if that's a plan.
30-minute time limit. I'm not sure about that.
No, okay, no, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
my guess would be Mystico just wins, and there'll probably be an attack afterwards that sets up the next tag title shot. Again, maybe in Mexico they're doing that Mexico thing between Mexico and or not Mexico, CMLL and New Japan at Arena Mexico like a week after this. So I can easily see something setting up a match on that show for Fantastica Mania Mexico.
I have great news actually, because El Fantasma and Jake Lee is a no time limit match, Dylan. It could go all night. But even these two guys, actually, Dylan, they have the unique chance to make something cool out of that, because they could, in DDT fashion, have these two brawl out of the building and come back at some point to finish the match.
That could be fun.
But they won't
imagine
because it's New Japan.
Imagine if these two, they went into business for themselves and said, we're going to milk this no time limit stipulation. And the TV show on national TV got cut off early. Which would make sense. Like, it would make sense for Tsuji if his big moment got cut off early, like with how they book him. So that would fit in with their gimmick. But that's just something to think about. If this show gets cut off early, they missed their time cues, then we have to blame Phantasmo and Jake Lee for this.
Yep, we just don't have enough time for Aaron Wolf winning back the Never Openweight Championship because of Jake Lee and Phantasmo going all night long. If you're a watcher that has only seen Wrestle Kingdom and this show, you'd think that Aaron Wolf is a big star because on both nights he won. You know? But if you're a regular watcher of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you've spent half a year of watching, or in my case, not watching, Aaron Wolf be dragged into House of Torture hell. And we've talked about him before, and we've probably made our case that we think that they don't see him at that level.
Yeah.
But he's once again in this big match situation now on a big TV show. So he has to win this title, otherwise they can just completely go away from him.
I mean, 5th from the top against Narita, that's not a big match in my opinion. And also,
in their mind, it is.
I think maybe the top 2 matches are big matches, like to them, and I think the other ones are all kind of interchangeable. Like, this could have been 3rd from the top, and it wouldn't have made a difference. But
Narita has quite the big spot in New Japan now after Evil left.
I mean, he's not a main event player. Like, even in their booking, I would say this. And I have to say, and I'm sure you smartly didn't watch it, but his match versus Fale.
I watched it.
All I'll say is, go back and watch his entrance at the Dome, and then go back and watch his entrance at Dontaku, and you're going to see a guy who's not nearly as over. And his drawing power also is being sapped. So, like, we'll see. I think he'll be a big deal to those fans that you mentioned. But even then, if you're that kind of fan, you're not going to be thinking that. You're going to ask yourself, hey, he won the belt at the last show. Like a few months ago.
No, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, like who is this guy, and why does he have the belt, and why is Wolf facing it? So, again, it's not good booking, and it definitely, to me, I don't even think they think this is a big match. Like, I really don't. Like, Narita to me is like, what I think could happen is that Wolf could win, and this could be a spot for somebody to run out and set up a new feud with Wolf. And something, because I think this really ends his arc. They can't really continue things going on like this with this cast, but if they have a new member of House of Torture, that could set things up to continue this feud, which wouldn't surprise me. I obviously think they should not do that. They should just have him wrestle other people, but I think that they are going to keep this going, honestly, even with Wolf winning.
Great stuff. Love it. Yeah. Next one is the tag title match with Yuto Ice and Oscar defending against Hinare and Great Khan. And just looking at this match and looking at the guys in the match, I'm high on the match. But is it like going to be anything special? I doubt it. It just could be another good title defense for the Knockout Brothers.
They've had magic in their matches to this point, but I do have to say, I really don't think they should lose to Okan and Hinare.
They should not.
And I think if they had played their cards right, this could have been your off ramp for this tag title run, and set up Yuto for a G1 run. But it doesn't feel like that at all, really. I think they should just win, and that's it.
In the multi-man matches they had, he was stunning once again. He's so over.
Yeah, he's great. To me, he's their their person you can have some hope in. And this team as an act, Oscar's done a great job too. But yeah, this is not an exciting match. I do have to say on paper, but maybe it'll be good.
Yeah. Then there is the match for the global title, three-way match. Andrade, who defeated Yoratsuji, defends it against Shota Umino and Drilla Maloney. Do you think this match is a three-way because Andrade can lose?
Yes, that's exactly what I think. He's been featured heavily in AEW, and they're not going to let him lose. So this is their make good. And I think Shota will get his win over Maloney here. This is his moment.
Are we heading to another title unification match with him having the global title and with Yoratsuji winning back the heavyweight title?
I was thinking him and Takeshita, unify those titles, because that plays off of the storyline that they had.
Yeah.
But something like that could work. They have too many titles, so I'm up for that. It could easily just be... I think the point of this is to give Shota a big win on a big stage. In front of the audience. He's one of the ones... Kind of what we had said when the Dome happened, that I said what they should have done is have all of these guys in the show with belts. Him, Uemura, Kosei, who didn't even have a match because Doki wasn't on the Dome show because they didn't care about him enough to do that. All of these guys should have ended the show with all belts, and the new generation is here, and this is their company. And instead, I think they're going to try something like that here, but not as
something
good.
Like that. Yeah,
or as effective.
Yeah, Oiwa and Uemura will be the odd ones out again.
Yeah. Maybe that could set up a turn or something, or a challenge.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So, yeah, Judo title, we talked about that match. We expect Yo to win.
Yeah.
Main event, we expect Yoratsuji to win, I guess, as well, right?
Yeah. I don't have any buzz for this match, personally. I do have to say.
Me neither, no.
I think I would have not had Tsuji drop the title if it was up to me. I get that they wanted to give Newman a moment and all of that, and he's improved and all that crap. When I saw that Dontaku number with him in the main events against Shingo, and this guy's just not a main eventer. Right now, that's all there is to it. Maybe he will be. Yeah, maybe he will be. He has improved, and I admit that fact. But he's not. You can't have this man leading the company going forward. And Tsuji, they've hurt. I think his first title reign hurt him more than helped him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is what he gets for criticizing his overlords, who would abandon the company, and by the time he would win his win back, by the way. But you know, and I truly believe that's the reason why he dropped the title. He pissed the wrong person off, and this is what it led to. Because there's really been no plan for this Newman thing outside of the Ospreay stuff that they may very well be doing on their own. Which the best thing that led to was him appearing on AEW.
Yeah. Yep. That's what happened.
But I mean, Tsuji gets his moment. And another thing, again, if you watch the other, the Dome, you're going to be thinking he won the belt on the last show. You're going to think the same. This show sucks, man. Top to bottom, everything about this show is terrible. Like, even if they make the right decisions. At least last year, the show was terrible because that was when the fans basically revolted and turned on House of Torture and Gabe Kidd and all that bullshit that they were doing last year. Here, even if they do the right things, this is a bad show, top to bottom. Like, no matter what booking decisions they make. Ah, man, this show is rough, brother. Like, one of the least interesting New Japan shows in some time, at least for a Dominion G1 final, King of Pro Dome like era, or maybe Sakura Genesis, whatever. This has to be one of the worst on paper that they've ever had.
I'm not hyped for it.
Maybe it'll be a big deal. Like, maybe it'll be a big spark plug for the company.
Yeah.
And if everything, let's say they overachieve, and they prove us wrong, and they have a great show, that's a big deal because it is on TV, and maybe that could lead to greater things ahead.
I think it's a great motivation to be on national television for most of these guys that can really make a splash. Even an Al Fantasma and Jake Lee in the second match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yomura, Oiwa. Nobody knows these guys in a public eye. Aaron Wolf has the chance to bounce back. Oscar and Yudo Ice have the chance to place themselves in the limelight even more. Shota Umino, with a big win, could come away as a big star here. Tsuji winning back the title could be standing tall in the end with Shota Umino and maybe with Konosuke Takeshita, with these three in the end. So there is definitely a chance. And on this card, you really want to stand out. And I can see the roster being in competition against one another, who does the best.
What you just said was probably the best hype for this show that they could have. Because I'm more interested just thinking about it from that lens than it as a show itself. Because you made a really great point. If these guys bring maximum effort and, again, overachieve, which is possible, there's been plenty of times that's happened where a match has looked bad on paper and somebody rises to the occasion. Maybe this can work at the end, but it's very much a wait and see. I think is the most positive I can be on this.
Yeah, you already mentioned it, Dylan. The Overlords, they are changing in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was announced that TV Asahi, New Japan's longtime broadcast partner that already owned 22.7% of the voting shares, has now bought the shares from Bushiroad that owned over 70% of New Japan Pro Wrestling for the longest part now, for I think over almost 20 years, I think. And the transfer of shares is now broken down to the point that TV Asahi and CyberAgent now own an equal number of shares of New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, Dylan, first of all, you wrote a big piece on our Twitter, and you also, now, on this show here, you have first-hand information from someone from Japan.
Yes, that's true. That automatically, it's not anyone that has anything to do with anything. It's just a person from Japan. That's all. But no, this person works in TV in Japan. So I every week on the Patreon, I write a newsletter. It's a EL weekly newsletter, and we're at 11 issues so far. 12 issues probably by the time this releases. The last few months now, I've been putting them out and having fun and doing reporting and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'll review matches on there and stuff like that too. For stuff that maybe, like those Noah Tag League shows, a lot of times there was only 2 matches in the tournament and I didn't want to do a full audio show on that. So I put a bunch of that in the newsletter to talk about. But I did a full feature on this situation that we're talking about with the sale of New Japan. And I did speak to a person that worked in TV in Japan, and they had a lot of interesting comments that I quoted in there. I'm going to read some to everybody now. I'm not going to hide it for you guys, but I do recommend signing up to the Patreon because you get that every week. Get some news, get some reviews, all that stuff. First of all, I do have to say, one of the things we have to talk about before I get to that, this company was sold for 5.4 billion yen. That is like $32 million. That's low. for a company. Like if you compare that to AEW, WWE, even TNA, like if TNA got sold, it would triple this probably. And it shows where the yen is at, yes, but also how the company has been devalued, like over the years. Like, and you know, Bushiroad's been around for 14 years. They bought it in 2012. Kidani was like very invested early on, and that led to a lot. And I have to say, this comes up every year when me and Gerard do the Observer Hall of Fame episode. Like Kidani getting knocked off the ballot was one of the worst voting choices to me. Like he is directly responsible for so much. Without him, this whole world of Japanese wrestling is so different, especially internationally. You know, a lot of this stuff happened, and I do have to say, my pin on the bow of Bushiroad era New Japan, there's a lot to complain about. A lot of things I've had issues with as a fan, and a lot that's gone wrong internally the last 5 years or so. Their run as New Japan owners is a 100% A+ success. If you consider where they bought it to the heights they got New Japan, like that was unthinkable. You know, like if you had told me where it would go in 2012, I would never have believed that possible. Like, so we have to accept, or at least, give them props for that. That said, again, the writing was on the wall multiple times when you look at it. It's been an open secret that Bushiroad and New Japan management haven't been on the same page for years now. Back since pandemic era. It's not some breaking news I'm giving you guys here. It's been strained. And just last year, they announced that they were separating Stardom and New Japan, which ended up in April. Like this, they officially separated that so Bushiroad can keep Stardom, a company that's doing good right now, instead of New Japan. They're more profitable. They're more aligned with who they are as a company. And it's funny to me about it. I joked about it a little bit earlier about Tsuji. When he made those comments about comparing about the card games, and that really pissed Bushiroad off. That's fun to meme about. But I really, really believe in my heart that this company was going to be sold no matter what. Unless there was a significant turnaround. Let's say Aaron Wolf had taken off and like shot up the charts and drew huge houses constantly. Like, if something like that had happened, they might have had second thoughts. But I think this company was getting sold. They were getting out. Bushiroad's own products aren't exactly thriving at the moment. And it needed to happen at the end of the day. But basically, so when I talked to my source in Japan, because I put a little bit on the Twitter, like you said, and my kind of point of view on that, when I read the terms of the contract and the sale and all of that.
Before we go to that, Dylan, let me go back to 2012. If I'm not mistaken, I just looked it up. Let me see. So there's an article from Nikon Sports from February 1st, 2012.
Yeah.
And it says that the Bushiroad Group Publishing is now the new parent company. The transfer price of the shares from Hughes, that was the former owner of New Japan Pro Wrestling, to Bushiroad was an official price of 500 million yen. And now Bushiroad sold this company for, what did you say? For how much?
The total, Bushiroad's stake was 3.8 billion, and the company is valued at 5.4 billion. Yeah. So 22 million, 32 million.
That's a success story for Bushiroad.
Yes, absolutely. Like financially for them, it was a huge investment that paid off for sure. Yeah. And so when I saw the terms of the deal, and I did post the thing on Twitter as well, and there's a lot to this. There's a lot of moving parts that we don't really know for sure. I do want to emphasize that, and that's why we can't really give a grand segment on this, because we're only speculating and talking about what we know, which is a little bit, but not a lot. So basically, when this all got announced, and I was saying that what was interesting to me about this, to me felt like it was clearly because a lot of people were talking about CyberAgent, because obviously the fans are going to point that together with the Wrestle universe and all of that. And, wrestlers have downplayed concerns. A lot of guys, somebody like a Shingo was hype about it. Keno did a thing on his YouTube page. They were thinking good things. They probably have high hopes, maybe. Fans, a lot of them were speculating, saying, hey, maybe New Japan could come to Wrestle Universe. Maybe Noah could cooperate a lot more with New Japan. They could have a much better relationship again. And what's going to happen with New Japan World? I've seen a lot of stuff like that out there. And the only thing that's really happened so far, and it very well may not have anything to do with this, but it is interesting timing at the end of the day, because pretty much a day or two after this was announced, New Japan put out a statement stating that they would not be airing AEW on New Japan World anymore within 3 months.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I've seen this talked about too, that my AEW starting, maybe that's something. But you're thinking from a Western perspective.
Timing. Even though my AEW is starting, it's very interesting time.
And for Japanese fans, it's a puzzling move. If this was a decision AEW made on their own, and it was just coincidental timing, if you're a fan in Japan, this is not going to make any logical sense. And it doesn't, at the end of the day. But if that deal, let's say it did have an effect, like let's say it was secretly a part of this, and this was one of their first decisions that got made, or first ripple effects, that calls into question the effect of their relationship to me in the future, like New Japan and AEW going forward.
Absolutely.
But we don't know that yet. It's just speculation again. But the terms of the deal to me were much more, it felt like it was in TV Asahi's favor than CyberAgent. And I mentioned right away that if they had wanted, the part that was interesting to me is that if they really wanted, I knew, and this pretty much got confirmed to me by a source, if Asahi wanted to, they could have just strong-armed their way into buying enough for a majority, or just bought all the shares if they really wanted. But they purposely have a 50-50 split in terms of percentage points from CyberAgent and Asahi. So to me, this is my read on that, and I'll ask you before I get into what the source said. My first instinct is that by making it 50-50 with CyberAgent, this provides an easy off-ramp for Asahi to unload if things don't meet whatever their expectations are for New Japan. Yeah. In a few years, let's say they're looking at these things, and like Bushiroad, they're disenchanted. Now they have a partner that is going to be one of the easiest and best, because they already work with them, first of all. But secondly, one of the best in terms of wrestling to unload this off to. That's how I took that at first glance. What say you on that point?
And it's an incredible investment for TV Asahi to begin with, because they've been the TV partner for New Japan Pro Wrestling for many, many years. They have the archive. And as the half owner of this promotion now, they even get more access to the TV archive than ever before. Mm-hmm. And they could also, in the end, if it doesn't match what they wanted out of their investment, they can still be the TV partner for New Japan Pro Wrestling with a new owner. I think for them, it's an excellent deal.
All of those are great points. So I brought this up to my source, and I will say that he works at a huge network, but not Asahi, this person. But they said that basically, and we talked a little bit, and I spoke with him a little bit, and they more or less agreed with that assessment, but they also gave me another idea along with some added context here. I'm gonna lay this out, what this person said. They said, it's possible they would sell in that instance. Wrestling's a part of their internal plans, but it isn't their whole world. By 2029, they have huge goals. And that's something I did some research on too, that there is this 2029 project for Asahi that comes in. And by the way, this is another thing. This is just me, not something they said personally. But I think a misconception is Asahi is purely a TV company, but they have heavily content. They have heavy content online and all kinds of stuff like that too. But so they were saying that 2029 they have huge goals, and if they aren't met, that would be around the time they would look to cut bait. But that's the glass empty side. The glass full side is that if New Japan becomes successful again, they're capable of buying Cyberfight themselves from CyberAgent and taking over wrestling for real. That's extreme. Yes. That's extreme, but if they wanted to, they could, and CyberAgent likely wouldn't mind selling that to them. If things keep going how they're going, that's more likely. And I asked about CyberAgent's role with Abima, because they worked together in that. CyberAgent's more involved in that than Asahi, and they're more hands-on with wrestling. They're the company everyone talked about in terms of the wrestling fans. But they basically said, don't be fooled. CyberAgent may be a big company and more involved in wrestling before, but if Asahi is involved in something to this extent, then they're pulling the strings no matter what anyone says. So, to me, this is speculation on my part again, that I personally think that Asahi probably had plans for something like this for some time, and I think CyberAgent too. This basically just fell into their lap. Like, everything kind of came together at the right time for them. And in some ways, I actually think for CyberAgent's part, if New Japan takes a turn, maybe not for the worse, but they're just slow out of the gate, Asahi might feel the need to sell at one point after these few years pop off. That might actually be better for CyberAgent. And, the worse it is, it's better for CyberAgent, the better it is for Asahi. But in either situation, it's kind of like New Japan can't actually lose, which may also be why maybe that was something to do. If Kidani and Bushiroad had some kind of sentimentality towards the company, they may have wanted it to be like that instead of just selling it off to some random person that has nothing to do with wrestling. These companies have been involved in wrestling for a long time now. But the problem is, this is the part that's scary to me, and I'll ask your opinion on this before we move on. No matter what happens, it really feels like the likelihood of a monopoly within a few years in Japanese wrestling, that is what grew the most with this sale, one way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And that's what my friend Marvin asked me about when it came to the sale too. And I immediately brought up this point that there is the danger of a monopoly in Japanese pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And given what we have now in the scene, I think a monopoly that is dictated by the way of thinking New Japan Pro Wrestling works could be real bad, because New Japan Pro Wrestling has led the way for all of these other groups to model themselves after for years now.
That's true.
Yeah, and with more power behind that company, and with the company controlling all the others, or most of the others. Let's say that there are some individual companies that are not owned by a bigger company, like, for example, DRAGONGATE or All Japan Pro Wrestling. They are not owned by a huge company like CyberAgent or now with TV Asahi. But the danger of a very streamlined Japanese pro wrestling Japanese pro wrestling scene definitely is there, and I wouldn't want that, actually.
It's not consumer friendly, and I'll tell you why. So let's just say, and I'm not saying these are the exact prices, but let's say Wrestle Universe is $10. Like, that's what I combine it to, whatever that translates to yet. And let's say New Japan World's $10. New Japan World and Wrestle Universe, they can't just suddenly decide, well, let me double my price and not expect there to be any consequence for that, because that's going to open the door for the other company to say, hey, we're half their price. Are you really going to choose them over us? Now, if you have a monopoly, let's say they both raise their prices $20, and if you want to spend for wrestling, that's a major league, because these other companies, they're Stardom perhaps, but the other companies are much closer to indie level unless you're on these shows or on these services. Yeah, maybe they could say, oh, we're upgrading both to 20, but hey, we'll cut you a deal if you buy both. You can pay us $30 now. And before, you were paying 20 for both, and now you're paying 30 for both, and you're paying 10 for one before, and you're paying 20 for one before, and nobody's there to fight them. And that's the danger for Monopoly and why it's so un-user-friendly. So that's something I'm keeping my close eye on. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Maybe all of this, things work out in a way where the companies are kept very separate throughout these years. And that could happen too. It's not impossible. But I do worry with the ideal of these companies having a 50-50 split. That feels like something's going to break eventually and somebody's going to get a majority. And then that could be bad, ultimately.
That could ultimately be bad, yeah. Interesting insight, Dylan, definitely. It's going to be interesting to look at if there will be changes in the model the New Japan cards
Yeah.
are arranged.
And
We
just
only
what
we only have this one now for Dominion
yeah.
because it's a TV special. It's a card with few wrestlers compared to other New Japan big shows. We'll see how that goes. I think the best comparison we'll get will be Wrestle Kingdom next year compared to Wrestle Kingdom
Yes.
this year.
And that's the thing. Like for me, I would say we can't really speak definitively for that until that 2029 plan plays out, however it plays out. And by then we'll see what impact this truly had. Maybe it'll just be business as usual for a while. They don't want to rock the boat. But one thing I will say, Strigga, looking at this Dominion card, and I'm looking at it right now, doesn't this feel like the show, like the last gasp of a dead company? Pretty much like they're out and they have decided to just go out. Like they just want to get this show over with and get out. Like that's what this card feels like to me. Like Bushiroad, and the people involved are like they know stuff's coming down the pike with this sale, and they decided to just put a show on to put a show on. When this should have felt like a huge deal considering the circumstances.
Can't wave that off. That you had just had.
Yeah, it's just what it looks like to me. Again, that's speculation, but if you look at this card, I think it's valid.
Yeah, I think that is as much as we can say about this deal right now. We just don't know how it unfolds, what happens next. Dominion is gonna really be interesting, Dylan.
Well, yeah.
Huh. Well, yeah, that is it, I guess.
Yeah.
For New Japan Pro Wrestling so far, it's what a world we're living in right now.
Maybe not. Maybe some other people will be joining New Japan in the future.
Yes, maybe that will happen. There was a great point brought up by Jay, the English Dragon Gate announcer, when he was on Open the Voice Gate the last time, that they have this United Japan Pro Wrestling organization, and if New Japan is seen as the bully that signs away all the talent from one of the groups within the New Japan, the United Japan project, that shouldn't be something that they want to, because why do we need that organization if New Japan just signs all the talent? But on the other hand, how much power do the others in this United Japan project have in comparison to New Japan Pro Wrestling? And do they really have the power to opt out of that project and to just maybe not have the New Japan guy on their big show once in a while? That is a question that I had. And of course, we are talking about Dragon Gate now. And the two guys that we're obviously referring to are Shun Skywalker and Dragon Dia. Dragon Dia has left the company at the end of February officially after wanting to leave for a while. We've talked about that in one of our recent shows back then. And now it was announced that without any question, the main character of this promotion for the majority of the last 10 years, Shun Skywalker is leaving the company. And that is, for Dragon Gate fans, I think that is real shocking news. For me, at least, it was. We're having and Jay made it sure to announce that this was not a storyline because it's Shun Skywalker. We never know with Shun Skywalker. But there is a Shun Skywalker final series with 5 dates. One of them is his hometown show. Kobe World is the second to last one, and then there is a show in August, and then I guess that is it. And with the interview that Jay has given on Open the Voice Gate on the recent show he was on, Dragon Gate looks to be in a terrible state as a company.
Yeah.
And that's not the roster. we've talked about the roster
Yeah.
plenty of times. The roster is very talented. But when you listen to what Jay said about all the turmoil happening backstage, people going into business for themselves, people not wanting to do certain stuff and not wanting to change, not wanting to do what should be done and be there for the good of the company, that is terrible for a company like Dragon Gate. Because the one thing that you should be doing as a company like that is be a team and wanting to achieve something for the good of the team and not for yourself. It's probably kind of the times right now, Dylan, in our societies right now, that people are looking out for themselves and not for the good of the team. But pro wrestling doesn't work like that. I mean, you can be an individual player in wrestling, you can be a freelancer in wrestling, but what does that in the end help you if there is not the guy across from you in the ring that is willing to help you be the star that you think you should be? And that is a terrible development that Jay told us about on Open the Voice Gate. And I think these two leaving, and Jay said it about Daya. Daya was the worst. He was the worst because of the talent that he has, but also of the circumstances that we learned of. But Shun Skywalker leaving Dragon Gate now in 2026, that has to be a departure that more than rocks the boat, Dylan.
It completely changes the company, to be honest. Like, there's no way you could argue that. I think that they put so much into this character over the past 8 years or so at this point. He's kind of the guy, or at least 6. He's a guy that really stood up after the terrible situation in 2018 where Shima and Shingo and Strong Hearts all left. Like, he was kind of the one that became the consistent star. Ben K had his moments and all of that, but Shun was the one that really lasted the most. Pretty much every year he's in a major match at Kobe World, and he's usually the one having the most interesting storylines, or at least the ones that have the most time dedicated to them. I will say that. And now he's going to be gone with not a lot. Like, him leaving, I think, leaves a lot of holes in the company, but also holes that should have been filled. Like, they could have been filled booking wise, to where him leaving is going to be a loss no matter what. He's a big part of the company. He's a legacy character and a good worker. Like, he's a positive in the ring, I would say, even though he hasn't been great, I would say, for a while now, to be honest. But he's a positive influence. And for multi-man matches, that's where he shines. Like, his singles run, to me, never was at any kind of legendary level. But in terms of a multi-man match, a guy that could have, threading the needle through multiple storylines at once, he's been that guy that's been able to do that. And now that's all gone. And that really takes a big shot out of your arsenal if you're a Dragon Gate, because now the next time you do a cage match, you're going to be missing this guy. You're going to be missing his storytelling, and you don't have anybody close that can replace that. So I think that
there's nothing as valuable as Shun Skywalker's mask on this roster when it comes to these matches.
Absolutely, and that's another thread that's going to be left hanging by his departure at this point. I think it's flabbergasting to me that this could happen and they knew about it in advance. Like, I have to think this was a surprise announcement to them, like the company, more than anything. Because if they had known about this, then that cage match finish is one of the worst booking decisions. If they knew about this in advance and still did that, that's inexcusable. Like, people need to lose their positions if that's the truth. because that's something that they'll never be able to pay off. You spent this man's Helmare's entire career has been built around this guy
Yep.
and the inevitable feud between them, and now it's just over, and you can't do anything with it. Like Homare's whole identity has been tied to this man.
It's been tied to Shun Skywalker. Yeah,
and now you can't even do anything about it. Like, he has to reinvent himself basically at this point, which there's been no signs of that yet at all. And I can't. And he's got a few dates left. It's not like he's leaving now. He'll be here for another month or two. He should be. I think he was at Kobe World date was listed.
I just said it. It's going to be the second to last date.
Okay, so they at least have time to make something of this. And I hope that they do. The problem is that their booking has been so bad lately that I don't have any confidence in that at all. And they've already shown signs that this could be maybe not a feel-good moment, but something that is really all about him even at the end, like on his way out. And I don't know what they have in mind for it, and we can only speculate. But I just know that losing this guy is a bad sign for the company. He's the last guy you wanted. You've left a bunch of storyline threads hanging, as I said. And on top of it, even if he didn't tell you personally, let's go back to a year ago, before Kobe World, when he suddenly missed a show due to injury. After coming up with this clause that they ended up having to overwrite, that if he lost, he would leave. DRAGONGATE. Yeah, they pulled that back. By the time the match came around, that wasn't a part of the story anymore.
Yep.
And he decided, no, I would rather team with Tanahashi than build up my main match at the biggest show of the year. That kind of tells you something, right there about what, like, where's his heart truly at that point. And I think that I think it just says a lot. And as far as the company goes without him, I will say this. I'll give Jay. I agree with him on one thing. Cypatra was not a good unit ultimately, and he was the face of it, and he hasn't been involved in something that's been really a difference maker in some time, to be honest. Like, if you go back to his run, even him getting kicked out of Zebrats,
it was not a special moment.
No, and it didn't lead to anything really, like anything of note. They created Cypatra and that didn't work. Like, that was the big payoff to all these years of Zebrats.
Him and Luis Mante for the title should have been a much bigger moment than it ended up being. I think we wanted it to be bigger than it eventually was.
And both of these things are partly on him.
Yeah, that's not saying that Shun Skywalker isn't an important figure. He is a very important figure in this company, but I get what you're saying, that there have been moments where you're sitting there and thinking, why is this happening how it is now?
And Jay himself more or less said that on the show. And you could tell that his loss, like you just said it. You said to Jay, Dragon Dia was worse than Shun. But that's not how they've been pushed in the company. Shun was significantly higher on the card than Dia at pretty much all points of their career.
To be fair, they recorded the show before the announcement that Skywalker was leaving, you know.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that's true. But even still, though, I think that it's a shame, because I think there was so much potential that's still left untapped with him ultimately. Because you see him as a guy, like, in my mind, I think of him as this big name and important figure. But when you really dig into his run, there are flashes and great moments. But to be honest, if you really take his career and dig into it in a total package, I feel like it should have been a lot better than what we actually got overall from him. And he had potential to be a lot more, but it never materialized.
Yes. And you mentioned Homare.
I think that's the worst part of all this.
The worst part. We agreed on that off the air. For Homare, it is terrible. He looks like an absolute joke after that finish in the cage match.
Yeah.
he's now getting a Bravegate title shot against the unquestionably one of the biggest stars in the company, or maybe the biggest star in the company, the biggest babyface in Ryoya Tanaka. But he will, for all we know now, he will probably never have the career-defining moment of defeating Shun Skywalker that he would need for him to become the star he could with his potential. That is off the tail now, apparently, and that is something that is really bad for the company. And when it's another point that I wanted to bring up, and that kind of dawned on me when I thought about the Dragon Gate roster and when I thought about the points that Jay made about all the departures in the last years.
Yeah.
There is a comparison that can be made to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and a point that I made about New Japan Pro Wrestling for the last couple of years here on this show as well, that both companies now basically they have a crop of old guys and a crop of young guys, and there is hardly any middle ground between that. In New Japan Pro Wrestling, they were able to pull Hiroki Goto out of the hat last year, who is kind of in the middle ground there. But he also made his debut 20 years ago, some 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And for Dragon Gate, there is a lot of young guys on the roster, and then there is a lot of old guys. And these old guys are really old guys because some of them debuted in 1999, and even before that, Mochizuki in 1994. And when you look at the list of guys who left over the last couple of years, you mentioned the Strong Arts departure with Shima, T-Hawk, El Lindemann, and Takehiro Yamamura. Then we had Masato Yoshino leaving the company, obviously, after he had his retirement. Then there was Kaito Ishida. Naoki Doi went freelance, still working for the company. That's the one guy that is still there. Eita, SB Kento, Takuma Fujiwara, Kaito Nagano, he had to retire, obviously.
Yeah.
And then, that's the list of names that we have that left this company in the last 10 years. That could have been, some of them could have been real big stars for the company. And if Ishima had been there, and I'm of course leaving out Shingo Takagi, who you mentioned. Shingo Takagi also left, and even before that, Akira Tosawa.
Yep.
All of these guys have left the company, and we have a roster of guys that is talented, but it's been a point that I made about Japanese pro wrestling for a long, long time now. How do you make a real big star in pro wrestling without this new star going over the last generation's star? It is a thing that Japanese pro wrestling had to do in the last couple of years because not only Dragon Gate, not only New Japan, other companies as well, they failed. Ultimately, they failed to put over the new guy above the old guy because for some circumstance, for some reason, it never came to fruition. And we have instances of that right now here, very visible before our eyes with the finish of the cage match. Homare lost, and he's not getting his win back. And for a company like Dragon Gate that is apparently in real trouble, it's damning news that broke with Shun Skywalker leaving.
And I totally agree with all of that. And they haven't even done anything with Homare of interest, to be honest. And is that title match for World?
That is
Homare
an interesting question, Dylan, because I don't know. They haven't scheduled it yet.
Oh, okay.
So the question here is, we have a Kurken that is still coming up, and and at this Kurken Hall show, there is a match scheduled for the next challenger for the Open the Dream Gate title that is still held by Madoka Kikuta, by the way. And it's KZ versus El Cielo. That's the options for the main event of the biggest show of the company this year. It's either Madoka Kikuta versus KZ or Madoka Kikuta versus El Cielo.
Somebody who hasn't done anything Like, what major wins has El Cielo had?
None
In
of them
Dragon Gate.
have done anything in recent time. But apparently El Cielo is really over with the crowd. So I'm guessing it's going to be Kikuta versus Cielo.
I mean, to me, the KZ path, there's just no upside to that.
No.
Really. It's
No,
like...
we've been there multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he had his chances before if they wanted, and where he probably would have been a great champion. And it's nothing against him. Like, he's a wonderful worker. He would probably have a really good match.
Yeah.
But it's a Band-Aid thing. You know, it's not the surgery that this company needs at the top, because Kikuta on top is another issue. Like, with all the talk about Skywalker, the person he put over was Kikuta, and Kikuta alone, pretty much, when it should be Hamare. And they at least have enough time. But even then, though, like, the thing is, after I said something like this before. After that cage match, Hamare should be obsessed with getting to Shun Skywalker. Mm-hmm. That should be his singular character goal, to avenge the man who betrayed him that he loved like an older brother. Like, and now he has to go. Like, that would be a perfect storyline. They could have easily have made that into a storyline where it's like, look, it's me or you. Like, you know, this company cannot exist with both of us anymore. One of us has to go. That would have been an interesting match. I really do think that could have been something. If you had a violent brawl at some point and a promo where Hamare said that he was coming for Shun, you could have built to a match without this just announcement deal. Like, instead it's just like, hey guys, I'm leaving. This place sure will suck when I'm gone. It's like, what kind of shit is that? Like, how can you book that? And they, like I said, I would have just not announced that until after World. I would have had it be a loser leaves town match and built that over the next few months with all the history they have. Maybe have a big build-up match, maybe a tag match, you know. Cielo could turn on Hamare and side with Shun. Hamare brings in a buddy. Maybe Tanaka. And like, they have a match that, let's say that goes to a draw or something, and they form a tag team to fight Shun.
Expecting that, actually, that these two are going to wind up together,
and they would be a great team. Like, they really fit as the cornerstones of the next generation. Yeah. And that's another point they made on VoiceGate before. I don't want to steal their point, but I will co-sign it. Like, these guys are way more interesting than the Reiwa 6. Like, so that's what you're saying when you say there's no middle ground. Yeah. The middle ground we have is either injured or not good. So we have to skip them to these younger guys. And will they have the guts to do that? Early returns say no, or else Hamare would be fighting Shun at World, and Tanaka would... I think if it were me, Tanaka would be challenging for the Dream Gate against Kikuta.
Yeah, but they still have him in the Brave Gate, and they should run. They should milk this Brave Gate run as long as possible, because this is the clear difference maker in Dragon Gate. Because Tanaka just had another outstanding title defense against Naruki Doi at the most recent Korakuen
that was a great match
on June 6th, rated 8.7 on Cage Match, as we're talking about it. Outstanding stuff from Doi. Doi willing to put himself down for Tanaka, for the greater good of the company.
Yes.
He's not even assigned to the company, but he's a guy that is helping the company. So the thing about the Brave Gate title match is the one guy that Ryoya Tanaka has not faced yet in his run is Dragon Kid. That is the one generational Brave Gate champion that is left that Tanaka hasn't faced yet.
Right.
So on paper, that is the match for World. So I'm expecting the Brave Gate title match to take place at the July 2nd Korakuen Hall show.
Okay.
Maybe by the time that this show airs, we'll learn differently, but that is my expectation, to be quite honest. The other match that I could see for Kobe World would be Tanaka versus Yuki Yoshioka, because they've now disbanded Decourage. They've gone their separate ways.
And they needed to.
They needed to. Yeah, Decourage was dead.
Yeah.
They needed to disband it, but that would be another match that could help Kobe World tremendously. But I do think it will be Kid and Tanaka.
And that would be great. I mean, I have no issue with that. But to me, Tanaka is a much better babyface choice than Cielo or even KZ at the moment. I would have had it to where he ties the record pretty much for Bravegate defenses, and Kikuta comes out and is like,
"But what is the record right now, Dylan? Where do you stand at? What is
where are we at right now with the record? That's a great question.
I mean, he has surpassed Kid's record of defenses already, because in Dragon Kid's 364-day run, he has had. Let me look at it. Wait a sec. He had 9 defenses, and Tanaka is at 10 now.
Okay.
I'm not sure right now, from the top of my head, if there was another one that had more defenses.
Yeah. How many did Pack have?
Yeah, I'm just browsing through it. Pack had.
So that was sharp that I pulled that out, right?
11. He said 11 defenses.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Like that's a great storyline right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so, but I mean, he'd have to break it then versus Homari. I mean, and that's a big match because I kind of like that, because if anybody was the proper person to be his successor, it would be Homari. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's a legitimate chance you could buy into him winning this match. Actually, I don't know if I would do that right before Kobe World.
No.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that'll be a great match though. Homari and Tanaka as a match.
Yeah.
Damn, that would be a fantastic match. On there.
The one key thing to be properly entwined in Dragon Gate, the one key thing that Ryoya Tanaka is still missing, and that he has never had, he never had a proper stable.
Good point.
Even with D-Courage, when Ikuta was in D-Courage, for the most part, Yuki Yoshioka was out, and it was a 3-man group.
Yeah, you're right.
Then Kikuta turned, and it still then was a 3-man group. Now with Daya gone, it was a 2-man group. To become a true top star in Dragon Gate, you need a functioning unit. And that's where the problems begin with the Dragon Gate, because their track record of units recently has not been good.
And it's a shame. That once was their strength as a company, and now it's what it is now. Yeah.
Yeah. So he would need a real good unit. So him and Homari as babyfaces, as cornerstones of a babyface unit, because they somehow need to replace D-Courage. They somehow do. And Tanaka leading that is the obvious choice and the best choice they have. Him and Homari being the cornerstones makes sense. Kazuma Kikuta is there.
Yep, that's a good pick.
Babyface Kota Minura, I guess, because he was thrown out of not D-Courage, Gaja Dokoro.
Yep.
So he would be there. That makes 4 guys. Sounds good. Maybe a 5th guy, maybe one of the trainees can join too, that they have right now, because apparently they're pretty good.
How about this option?
Yeah,
I'm already, my mind's already, the wheels are turning as we're talking. But I have an off the wall pick for you, and I'll give my reasoning for it in a second. Jay. Like stuck in this group as supposedly the leader, but KZ's the real leader. Like
KZ just beat him.
Yeah, exactly. So Jay goes back to somebody closer to his own age. Could be kind of the big guy of the group too. Like, you could do that too. That trio could be dynamite. Tanaka, Homari, Jay. Throw in Kimura too in there. I like that idea a lot on there of that group. But I mean, they have a lot of options. I honestly like the way the groups are. I think an idea I kind of was brainstorming before we got on the show, just something I thought about this morning. like this could be the Wild West era of Dragon Gate, and at least given it somewhat an identity where every unit's broken up. Like for a few months, everyone's on their own, like every man for themselves. We would build to obviously next year we would bridge that gap eventually, but none of these units inspire anything to me. The only thing I could say is that at least Vibes has a role as like the fun opening act, but you could do like you could build a new group around KZ that could do that. Like that same thing and just freshen it up a little bit. But all of these groups, if every one of them broke up, I think that's no big loss. And I would just like totally repaint the shelves pretty much at this point.
That would require going into a big risk, Dylan.
Yeah. I think they need it with how things are right now.
I agree with you, but ultimately this is a pro wrestling company. And going out on a limb.
That's true.
It's not really what Japanese pro wrestling companies are known for. And what does Dragon Gate right now have when they get rid of all their groups? Because it's so much part of their DNA that they always have groups. And in DG, if you don't have a group, just look at Luis Mante. He's doing nothing. And he's not only doing nothing, none of his matches are in any way interesting because
yes, you're right.
Why would he even care? Because
all good points.
So getting rid of all the groups, it could make for an interesting time period. But that also requires that you completely restructure the way that you book cards for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a short-term thing, obviously. But I also get where you're coming from. Those are all fair points, and I think your version is probably the reality of the situation. Like, I don't think they're going to go with that idea. It's just an idea I had because I think
it's an idea to be tossed around. Definitely, it's a good idea actually.
It's just, and right now, like most times, it wouldn't be what I would want to do. But right now, at this specific point, I don't think any of these groups serve purpose anymore. And at least that would be, because like, okay, like we're talking about this Tanaka group that, and I like your idea a lot. Like and what we've kind of came together on, even my pitch with Jay, it's all good. And really, Tanaka and Homare in a group, it's going to be good, no matter what they do. But let me ask you the question coming up then. Where does this leave Yoshioka going forward?
Yeah. I really don't have any good idea for him right now. It is very obvious. It is very obvious that all of us consuming Dragon Gate and all of us being fans of the company value Yuki Yoshioka much more than the actual owners of this company.
Yeah. I'm just watching him in this shirt, and I feel like he's starting to check out a little bit. These last month or so.
It's crazy because after he was given the high fly flow by Hiroshi Tanahashi, you could see how much he enjoyed it, how much fun he had doing this high fly flow. Then he had the match with Kikuta that it was detrimental to his run.
Yeah.
Playing second fiddle to Ryoya Tanaka. I mean, the best thing you could do is turn him heel because of that, what I just said.
Yeah. And that's a big disappointment if that happens. But there's really no path for him that wouldn't feel like a disappointment, considering where that exact thing that you just said. So I guess you might as well try something new and hope it sticks. I guess. Because now him and Nora's on their own. Maybe they're going to be linked in some kind of faction, but that doesn't do a lot for me, like personally. And it's also clear they value Minoura a lot more than we do. I would say, if they switch Yoshioka, if they switch how they push Yoshioka with Minoura, I think that would fit what we want a lot better. But this company's in crisis right now. Like you're looking top to bottom. We're talking about Dragon Kid and KZ being the singles title challengers in 2026. And And we're not even sure Homario will even get a win over Shun at World.
I'm not positive on that. And I'm not even positive on that match even happening.
Yeah, I mean, and that's totally reasonable for you to not be sure about that. But, okay, well, one thing on that, and, we'll get out of here. Let's say it's not Homari. Because I'm with you, by the way. Like, I have those same suspicions. But let's say it's not him. What's Shun doing at his last World?
Like Hio.
Him and Hio?
Yep.
Oh.
They were partners in this tag match that they just had.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Oh, man. Homari would look so bad in that scenario. So, with that said, we've covered the DG part. I would say pretty good on that end. What do you think the future holds for Shun himself after he leaves?
I don't know, man. The obvious answer to all these questions always is New Japan Pro Wrestling.
It's not Ryuko Dragon Pro. I'm very confident in that.
By the way, if you have not seen that yet, the Open the Triangle Gate title is vacant now. The 99th champion team was the Ryuko Dragon Pro team of Gurkhan Mask, Shiromi Saber, and Tilan Shisa. They defeated the Natural Vibes team of KZ, Aki, and Gyuchi at the non-televised Mensorigate show in Okinawa. Then they had a defense of the title at the most recent Ryukyu Dragon Pro show that is also available on YouTube, where they defeated the Poseidon team of Motsuko Tominaga, Ryukyu Dingo, and Shurijo. And now the title is vacant because Tilan Shisa is retiring. Talk about questionable decisions in Dragon Gate. That's
everything you said in this saga is insane. Like all of that.
Yeah, so
I would change all of that.
Yes,
if I could.
Yeah, me too. Yes. The title is now vacant, and I'm guessing that they are doing a title tournament. Not that it's been too long ago since they did the last tournament.
Yeah, you're right.
It was in December, right?
Yeah, it was right around there. Yeah, you're totally right. What?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, it was. Yeah, 11 Piece won the title at the end of December. Yeah, that was the tournament. So the title is now vacant, and they are. I'm guessing the champion team number 100 will be crowned at Kobe World. Yeah. So for that matter, New Japan is the obvious answer to all of these questions, but the problem here is New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't have character development.
That's true.
And that is, to be quite honest, of course, yes, Shun Skywalker is a very, very capable wrestler, but his forte has always been his character.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's the right landing spot. The other logical choice would be Pro Wrestling Noah. I can imagine Shun Skywalker fitting into the picture of Pro Wrestling Noah much more than I can imagine him in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
How about you?
I agree with all that that you said. I will say one a little bit counterpoint, especially because I've watched all of this stuff in this tournament lately. It feels like they are emphasizing characters and overemphasizing them, but really more so them as tropes. Like there's no development really, but I think Shun could make that work, being just a more or less a parody of himself, like in New Japan, like a one-note version of Shun Skywalker. I think that wouldn't be way outside the ballpark for him, and to me, he totally fits in. I mean, maybe not in this specific instance because he's still with DG for the next month, but that role I talked about a new House of Torture member coming in, him taking over the reins of that faction and trying to give it a boost, because I mean it can't get much lower. To be honest, there's no expectations. But if he became a new leader and that they built a group around him right away, even if we don't like it, that would at least give him something to kind of hang his hat on. I think him just coming in as himself for no logical reason, like let's just say he gets announced for the G1.
Huh?
I don't know if there's a lot of like he doesn't fit to me. Like you said, him and Noah fits a lot better because they're more apt to do crazy ass stuff, pretty much, that he would be involved in. And I think he would have a role. Like, you could easily see him doing battle with somebody like an Ozawa, for example.
Yes.
Him versus Naito, I'm sure he'd love to do that match,
I
even
was
if
just gonna bring
I
that
wouldn't
up.
like it.
He would be a tremendous addition to the Los Tranquilos group there.
And they need something like right now. I mean, they've done this tournament and stuff. That could give Naito maybe a more credible partner than Bushi, too, if they wanted to continue him on a tag run. Or maybe even a rival. Like, maybe him and Naito could fight each other and build to a big match with that. Yep. That makes sense. I could see him as the type of person that may say, look, it's now or never. If he has some kind of inkling that America could call him, maybe that's something he would want to test out for the future, the short-term future. I don't know where he would fit in the U.S. Wrestling scene other than nowhere, because his character is so not like a U.S. TV wrestling character. It's so different and so unique that I just don't see anybody knowing what to do with him if he were to make some kind of jump. But if the money's there, maybe this is all a financial issue that just hasn't been talked about. But I mean, I don't see that. I don't really get the vibe that there's really any clamoring for him as any kind of prospect, even compared to Evil. Or whatever his name is. I forget his name in NXT. I actually kind of liked it. Yeah, Naraku. Yeah, that was a decent name.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Yeah, not bad at all. But I don't see that kind of love even for him in America. So to me, and I just don't foresee him leaving Dragon Gate to take a downgrade. And that basically leaves New Japan and Noah. Maybe if CyberAgent is like, hey, maybe he could be a good fit for DDT.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have better pay and better production values around you. And maybe he could be a rival of Ueno in the future. Although I am looking forward to his match with Aoki coming up.
Sure.
But Shun is a better fit for a generational rival than Shinya Aoki to Yuki Ueno, I would say, if they're going to do that. And with Takeshita more or less out of the picture, and Mao, they just don't want to make him to that level. Maybe Shun, I think he would fit in great in DDT, actually. Now that I think about it, I think that could... it wouldn't shock me if that's something they would make a move for. But to me, I also think ultimately, with New Japan just selling to CyberAgent and Asahi, they're going to want people. Like, they're not just going to roll with this tired-ass roster. And he's really the biggest person that they could reasonably get unless they could take somebody. And I think it would just be easier to bring him in now that he's left. Him, Daya... there's rumors of some other people that they've looked at, but we don't have anything super credible yet.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it just seems like they would want somebody like him to spend money on to make this bigger, and make a splash as new owners. To me, the same way. Remember when Bushiroad first got New Japan? Within a few months, suddenly Shibata and Sakuraba were back. Laughter 7 made their return.
Yes.
I think they would want maybe I don't mean the stunt, because it would obviously be something to help the roster. But I think they would want something like that the same way Bushiroad did.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but this is all speculation. We'll keep our eyes on it. Hopefully, they have something good in mind, and he has something good in mind going forward.
I'm so frustrated, Dylan, right now. It's been good to talk about it, because these two, New Japan Pro Wrestling and Dragon Gate, those are the companies that I've been following the longest.
Yeah.
And I'm losing my grip on New Japan. I'm not into what they put on for the most part, or for some part, I want to say. I really enjoy the Knockout Brothers tag team. Really enjoy Kosei Fujita. Really enjoy Yotatsuji for the most part. I'm high on Daiki Nagai. I'm high on some of the young lines they have. They have good parts, but I'm losing my grip because of some of the things that they do. And hearing about all the troubles in Dragon Gate has really been so frustrating. Seeing the struggle that some of the guys are on, just not being pushed to any point. Just look at Jackie and Rita.
Yeah.
In ring, one of the best tag teams, but what do they get? It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that leaves me for the next couple of months.
Let me ask you one more question in regards to Dragon Gate, because they brought this up on VoiceGate, and I'll throw it to you and we'll give our take on it. And you've been watching for longer than me, longer than all of us, probably, when it comes to Dragon Gate, except for Jay himself, perhaps. Do you think this is the lowest period for DG, like in their history, in terms of a product, not like scandals or anything like that, which eventually get made up, as we know from Magnum Tokyo, but just in terms of the product itself, is this the lowest point in their history?
I was very low when Muscle Outlaws were around.
Oh, that sucked.
I hated the product back then with all the run-ins and stuff that happened.
Yeah.
That was a very low point. Gamma being a singles champion.
Oh, that sucked. Yeah.
Dylan, that was god-awful.
Yeah, Kakuta is way better as Dreamgate than Gamma was as a champion.
I would always call back to the Muscle Outlaws era of Dragon Gate as the low point. But we didn't have the information from backstage as we have now with the Jays, so might be comparable.
I kind of go to like 2018, like when they did, all those guys did leave, and like Antias was the big heel promotion. That was like, remember, we stopped talking about DG for like 2 years, like until, because it was so down. Like, and we had just came off of that great Berserk era. You know, all of that stuff was going down. You had the BB Hulk run, which I loved, and the Shingo run, which I loved. And then you got to Antias. And it really was a down period. So that's what I go to. Muscle Outlaws era was bad, though. Like, I do have to give you that one. Overall, like you said, if you compare the stuff now to that, it's a lot better now. Actually, like now that I think about it, because I'm remembering that whole time. Yeah, okay, I'm with you. Like you've won me over on this one. So this isn't the lowest point. There's some positivity, and you get this. There also was nothing really as exciting as this Tanaka run either during those times.
That's right.
So we at least have something to hang on to, and we've seen stuff before where companies have turned it around. So, like you said, it was frustrating but therapeutic, and hopefully the listeners also agree. And please let us know your thoughts on the lowest point in DG. What was the worst unit in DG history? World Cup, New Japan, all of that stuff. Let us know. Talk to me. I have no friends. Please help me.
He does have friends. He does have the listeners of this very show, Dylan. You do have those. You do have me.
I know.
And it was great to discuss these topics with you once more here on the Eastern Lariat. And I hope that you all enjoyed us rambling around New Japan, rambling around Dragon Gate. And if you, just like Dylan said, if you have discussion points on that, please let us know. Let us know on Twitter at Eastern Lariat. But for now, this has been the show. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.